So this was a suggestion from Tiki. I'm just gonna double check and make sure I don't fuck that up. Yeah, Tiki suggested this video. So let's lock in. The worst esports experiment ever.
This video is sponsored by Arena Breakout Infinite.
Arena Breakout Infinite.
Many of us have a common conception of what a business is. They provide a service, they provide a product, or, you know, that some tangible thing. Whatever concept you have of a business.
I got a video uploading
like one unified
today,
thing.
actually,
The
dwarf.
point is to try and make money.
You can watch that if you want, brother.
Or is it? evilgeniuses is one of esports' most reputed brands, having competed in various different esports titles since the early 2000s. You know, for this channel, this is a Counter-Strike channel, they would field teams in Counter-Strike 1.6, and they'd even field some fan-favorite players like Jordan Nothing Gilbert back in his early day career. But that isn't really what evilgeniuses was known for. evilgeniuses' main branding were high-performance strategy games. Basically, video game chess. Games like StarCraft 2 and Dota 2 is where this organization thrived, as they would win the International in 2015, the biggest tournament in esports. In fighting games, they've also got players like Justin Wong, the guy who got Daigo character.
My homie Jags plays all that shit and some like what the fuck else does he play? World of Warcraft and fucking. He's tried to get me to play all of them like so many times, bro, and I just can't, man. The grind and everything, it's like holy fuck. I get it though. Like if you're a consistent player, man, like I don't know, like when the game's been out for fucking 10 plus goddamn years, it's totally different because you've probably been playing with the same people.
evilgeniuses is a little bit niche in terms of a brand because they weren't competing in the big boy esports like League of Legends, Overwatch,
League.
Well, Counter-Strike. One of the biggest legacy brands in esports were just floating along and were, quote, just a handful of bad business decisions away from bankruptcy. evilgeniuses were looking to be purchased, and fortunately for esports history, they got their angel investor. In May of 2019, private equity firm Peak 6 Entertainment would acquire evilgeniuses. And very importantly here, one of their associates, Nicole LaPointe Jameson, would take over as the CEO. Okay, but many of us have seen big business takeovers.
Use like a top Val team.
Rarely are.
I'm not really in the Val, like the pro Val lore and all that shit. Really, like it's fun to watch. I just don't keep up with it like I do with COD. You know.
Brands that they take on over. They're not endemic to their industry, and the exact same happens here. evilgeniuses were full of esports old guard and mostly just run by, you know, the gamers themselves. Well, here comes big business men and women to try and revamp this organization, this failing business. These folks were not endemic to esports, but to Ivy League colleges. So now that we are owned by a big private equity firm, we have to do big business things. That's called aggressive growth. Peak 6's goal was to beef up evilgeniuses' revenue streams and potentially sell off the organization in the future for a profit. You actually went into esports to make a profit? So the way you start doing that is by purging all esports old guard and the gamers in the company, also known as dead weight.
Oh my god.
And a literal PR team to make herself, not the organization, look good. Anyways, with this backing, to the LaPointe, as her Twitter handle would once upon a time be known as, started to play some esports Barbie, as many organizations have in the past. Alongside the purge, evilgeniuses also aggressively expanded into the big boy esports, League of Legends and Counter-Strike, buying franchise slots in both for untold millions of dollars. And actually, things started out really well for EG. They were a very winning.
I like I threw Hex in there. Hex tried to basically give himself less work. That's all he tried to do, and then it ended up not working that way at all.
Games they initially participated
wanted to focus on content more.
Counter-Strike unit would ascend to #1 in the world, winning
Seems like he's got it now though.
York and Star Ladder Season 8, with a unit containing your favorite future Valorant players and content creators. Sorry guys, a little bit of foreshadowing. Okay. That's something for you all to know at home. Counter-Strike is one of the hardest esports to turn a profit in because of salaries. Big organizations have utterly cranked up the price of players. The idea that you can pay under $500,000 a year for a star player just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's
the biggest businessmen
What?
who drive on in and expect to be playing, like, you know, regular sports ball. We gotta pay these players well over $500,000 just to play video games and make GG tweets. Evil Geniuses was one of these people. One thing to put out there, not all esports players necessarily drive fans to them. They can be good at games, but that's about the extent of their branding, unless you're a streamer like Tarek.
You want me to push tunnel or no?
Boots here, come on.
Yep.
Bomb.
I'm blind.
Mom's there.
I'm blind.
Went out mid. Dead. That was fucking dead,
Wow.
Eric.
Good
Good
fucking
job, guys.
round, dude.
I don't
You
think
just...
they heard you ever.
Or a personality like Simple.
Peter, why you... what he's doing? Why you bully me?
Or you're also good at the
Simple's
game.
Why are you bullying me?
There is like zero possibility you will ever make a profit spending $150,000 a month and millions of dollars on partner leagues and franchise slots on your team unless you maintain a legion of fans. That brings us to our next point. Branding. The logo for Evil Geniuses has existed for literal decades. It is a staple of gaming. They are one of the legacy organizations in esports.
Yeah, they've been around for a
That
while.
logo carries weight. So, the brilliant minds of
I remember them back in like
brilliant
fucking,
mind
was
of
it
Nicole Jameson.
Ghost or
she
whatever?
was literally the driving force behind this
So fucking
rebrand,
long
not
time
a
ago.
design, art team, marketing, or anything. It was her idea. So anyways, this person with no idea about Evil Geniuses' past called for a complete rebrand of a legendary logo in esports.
What did they change it to? What the fuck is this?
This wasn't EG anymore. It felt like a corporation. instead of
Oh
what
my
was a
god,
company
no!
their teams. The old guard was getting purged and they had a shitty rebrand. This is looking a lot like every single business takeover ever. Guys, this is still the prelude. We haven't even gotten to the main course yet.
Yeah, that's
So,
crazy.
Let's keep this thing.
Yeah, I want to get into this
And
now.
esports suddenly
You
took
feed
front
me.
and center stage as conventional sports scrambled to find solutions. Gamers were now playing their tournaments online. So let's zone in
Graphic
on
design.
Counter-Strike. North American Counter-Strikes had mostly made up their mind on which team to cheer for. It was Team Liquid, and there was no way that the corporate branding of Evil Geniuses is going to
still
entice
listening.
any Counter-Strike gamers. Esports fans are a lot more personal with their organizations. Like, for Christ's sake, look at the branding for organization DSG. For fans, a literal Microsoft Paint drawing is more personable to a gamer than whatever branding agency built this logo. So the second half of
Yeah, that's pretty
2020 was
bad.
damning for
When did they do that?
Counter-Strike.
That's so
The
sad.
roster wasn't putting up results in North America.
For 2020, obviously.
On their excursions to Europe, this happened.
All rest in the hands of the Seas. Everyone just got taken out. Taps through. Forrester. Awkward space.
Evil Geniuses were just taking a nosedive.
Just turn back in. This is the worst esports experiment ever, Chop.
Once a ridiculous superstar fragger was no longer, and Cirque fell off a cliff. Reportedly ugly contract negotiations with Evil Geniuses were impacting the team's performance. In lieu of these stupid contract negotiations, in February of 2021, Ethan would leave Evil Geniuses to join 100 Thieves Valorant.
Have
He
you?
switched games. Ethan was a literal top 20 player in the world, by the way. But when you're basically on the verge of losing your job, go ahead and take your services elsewhere. Then shortly after, in what would be probably one of the best career decisions you could ever make, Tarek would retire from competition. Hi, Tarek. These two left an organization that would just never recover. And so begins. From being the face of
That's
North
pretty
American Counter-Strike to falling off the face of the earth. Welcome to the worst esports experiment ever. Hey, gamer. Yes, you, gamer. And if you aren't a gamer, it's okay. You can be one just for the segment. Afraid that you're a North American Counter-Strike player that might get signed to Evil Geniuses? Don't worry. You can take safety in Arena Breakout Infinite, a free-to-play tactical extraction shooter where you can loot, grab, steal, loot some more, and then sell. Like I found
In the
this gas can
VCR?
that's worth $65,000. That's like the monthly salary of a tier 1 Counter-Strike player. Alrighty, jokes aside, playing the game has definitely left me wanting more. With crisp visuals,
This game
and
was fun
easy
to play.
pick up UI compared to other shooters I've played, it's truly been an exceptional new player experience, while also running
Bruh.
incredibly smoothly. Climb aboard and hop in at Arena.
Aim Labs is free, bro.
With Season 1 starting, there are tons of free to get yourself a head start. So
I don't think
let's
that was
get it.
him playing. That was just the clip he probably used. I would imagine that was not him.
Alright, speaking of sellouts, EG in 2020 would undergo another rebrand since they already realized that annihilating the
This is
legacy of
indeed
esports
free.
doesn't go well with their already dwindling fan base.
I can't believe they
Nobody was
cooked a
wearing this
logo
on
like
Dummy
that.
and went to a
Bruh.
more modernized version of the old logo. This logo doesn't really have the same gamer luster, and it didn't really evoke anything in me, but fine, fuck it. Evil Geniuses in 2021 were categorically a burning bonfire of money as they placed last in all of their partner leagues. The
What the fuck,
organization
Tom?
placed dead last in ESL Pro League Season 13, Season 14, Season 15, and Season 17, and have their partner slot reviewed for relegation. In 2022, wielding their massive wallets that they got from out of thin air, like, who was giving these people money? They signed the North American Nostalgia roster.
Wow, that's
consisting
bad.
of
So they're
the
like the Boston breach of COD.
North
Okay,
American
I get it
League
now.
winning core, the GOATs, the people who are supposed to drive all the fans back to Evil Geniuses of Stewie 2K, Automatic, Rush, and their two
That's
demotivated
crazy.
superstars, Breeze and Cirque. There is no doubt that Evil Geniuses just lit another stack of cash on fire to sign these players. This only got more bad PR as an altercation, which would become dubbed the Starbucks incident, would go down. Stewie 2K was
my bad.
notoriously a very powerful personality on his team, and his leadership style would be criticized by his coach, Damian Malik Marcel. Malik offered Stewie to go to Starbucks to try and resolve said issues over the table, but Stewie then refused to go because he thought there wasn't a real issue here, which led to a very antagonistic working environment between Stewie and his coach. A bunch of hearsay later, and Evil Geniuses Counter-Strike division went back to the drawing board after missing the major and basically imploding 3 months later. Great stuff. Magnificent. So,
Go.
Evil Geniuses reconvene at the table. Do we continue going into Counter-Strike after we have just been complete garbage for the last 2 years? They labor, they go to the whiteboard, and they discuss. But the question is not how we are going to make a good Counter-Strike team. It's how are we going to burn as much money as possible. For context, in League of Legends, Evil Geniuses
I thought we were gonna
actually
go
doing
back here, but
extremely well, because they may or may not have been mentally abusing one of their players. It is to be noted that Evil Geniuses had
Wait,
two
what?
separate practice squads competing in North America's Academy League. So Nicole was like, how about we save our failing Counter-Strike team by doing the exact same
They thought the entire esports world functioned under the rules of League of Legends, and this for CS:GO they had no idea.
thing in a completely different game with a completely
What
different
the
circuit.
fuck?
I love business people. Evil Geniuses esports division decided to concoct what is probably the most ridiculous, not just esports, but sports experiment ever. Like, I understand. You have feeder teams, you have practice squads. Evil Geniuses would sign 15 players in what would be dubbed the Blueprint Project. Evil Geniuses would sign two notable organizationless North
What the
American
fuck?
Counter-Strike teams, Party Astronauts and Carpe Diem. There's no shame to these players. If someone walks up to you and offers you a bag of money, you take it. But they weren't like prodigies or anything to say of that sort. They had been competing in the North American circuit for multiple years up to this point, and while the hope was to build up these players, it was mostly a lukewarm operation. They'd go underneath the tag of EG Black and EG White. Evil Genius's business model was that of a black hole, but instead of sucking in light, it takes money from investors' pockets and gives it to North American Counter-Strike players. I mean, as a North American Counter-Strike fan, hell yeah, brother. In the meantime, the main
Hell yeah, baby.
build after the Starbucks incident, they attempted to sign 2 European players. Kazakh IGL, Nealon, which, according to him, was the most unexpected thing in his career to be offered to join Evil Geniuses. And then French prodigy rifler, Masuda. Okay, so problem, 8 days later after this report came out, Masuda signed to Falcons. Evil Geniuses management effed it up. So right off the bat, they would have to promote.
So he got a bigger bag,
different
is what you're
project,
saying.
Hext, to join the main team. They would rock up to their mandatory Blast Premier groups and get eliminated in last place without a single win. They would be at ESL Pro League, where they would actually go 2-3. But not before they couldn't take a single map off of a top 15 team, and they wouldn't make playoffs.
What do wanted to do against their North American, I guess, rivals, in certainly in this group, but certainly in terms of region. One there, yeah. Not so much yet in terms of ability.
However, they'd
So that's like Boston versus Carolina. Heard.
qualify to the
I'm
2022
just kidding.
Rio Major. And guess who was there?
Boast.
We're jumping back into the IEM Road to Rio Americas, and we have a qualifying best of 3 on our cards. Evil Geniuses and 9Z are both 2-0, both pulling upsets, and they find themselves in a position to make themselves to Rio with a win.
I want to see some winning here, hopefully.
Out
And
of A main. How much noise is Max gonna make? A lot. Oh, he's gonna stomp. Automatic knows pre-fire is there. 2 versus 4. 9Z, not like this. It's only NQZ. The 17-year-old has to make a 1v4 happen and get that bomb planted in 10 seconds. Out in the open. Who else but Hex to do it? It's EG. They're off to Rio. Well, get excited as they exit the Rio Major 1-3. So, what was going on with those other 10 players other than the main team? Well, locally in North America, they'd be competing, but it felt so redundant looking in from the outside, as these rosters had hardly any tournaments to compete in. EG Black would be competing in the regional league of ESL Challenger with some shakier rules, because the whole point of ECL was to qualify for ESL Pro League. But their main team is already automatically invited. So if EG Black does well, they would automatically forfeit their spot. So it didn't really even make sense to be here. So while EG Black was doing that, EG White existed for 9 months. They would play a total of 7 organized tournaments total. The players didn't mind it. They knew what they were getting into when they signed these contracts, but it just doesn't make managerial sense. Evil Geniuses became the punching bag of esports.
Things you would not hear at an EG bootcamp.
Guys, I think this season's going to be fine. I've spoken to the management and I'm going to put out a series of tweets that's really going to put us in a strong position this year. Everything's probably going to be fine.
Hey, it sure is getting
Nah,
cold.
that's
You know how much
crazy.
money we can burn.
No, but seriously, guys, I think if we just add 14 more players, I reckon we're onto something.
Okay, guys,
Bruh.
to introduce a new member to our staff. It's Kassad.
But we have one more character in this Evil Geniuses story. A great pundit. He goes in for some jokes. His name is Kassad. He's a coach formerly, and now a broadcast analyst and team manager of, you know, he's had some drama lately. But he is Evil Geniuses' biggest hater. He is leading the pitchforks and torches against this organization. We will touch back on Kassad in just a little bit. But wait, they actually started to put up a result? In their opening best of 3 of 2023, Evil Geniuses Counter-Strike face off against world #1 Heroic at Blast Premier Spring Groups. And they defeat them 2-1.
Close. Yeah, he's got him boxed in, and that's
Wait, wow.
walking in slowly. Cadian nearly getting shut down on the escape. He has no idea, and this time we're not lying. It's EG bringing down Heroic. It took a round extra, but they've done it.
Evil Geniuses management start to chirp about their big win, especially one EG staff member, GamerDoc. We just took the #1 ranked team in the world, and all the casters can think to say is Heroic didn't show up. Correct! We clawed our way back from 217th in the world by building a talent pipeline the whole scene memed on. Correct! Step out of the echo chamber.
Go to motionray.com to
Yeah, that's a little crazy. Step out of the echo chamber, bruh.
And pay attention. Anyways, the next day they would get their shit absolutely rocked by Team Vitality, getting 16-11 and then losing 16-1. Oh, hey, in the lower bracket, they rematch versus Heroic, where, you guessed it, Lightning does not strike twice. After winning map 1 16-9, they win 7 more rounds for the rest of the entire series. And then, as a cherry on top, they go to the knockout bracket, where they face off against NA rivals team Complexity. They lose to another North American team.
Cancel out that AK. Wiz on the other side, 1 versus 4. They know where he is, and he will be able to take him down. Complexity, 16 rounds as they finally bring down EG.
At ESL Pro League Season 17, they would proceed to go 0-3. So EG arrive in Monterrey, Mexico for the Blast Paris Major RMR to attempt to qualify to the last CSGO major. This is by far the most important tournament. EG aren't even supposed to be here. It all starts in February. Kasad issues the challenge to all North American teams. It's the Kasad Grand Slam. $1,000 to whoever can eliminate evil geniuses from major contention to rid North America of, in his mind, incompetence. They lose their opening best of 1 to a literal face-it pug team named Yer, because Yer. Remember,
what the fuck?
Evil Geniuses management are paying
Yer
salaries for some of their tenured players. To lose to a team, you can't even call a team. It's more a collection of players. This team formed solely for the RMR and nothing else. Well, that kind of speaks for itself. EG proceed through the tournament, but then lose to MIBR 0-2, putting them in the 3-2 bracket. Since there are only 7 slots available, this puts them in a decider match versus Brazilian squad, Team 1. This squad back then had Malbs MD. He now plays for G2 Esports. He goes, these days, by the doctor. Let the young gun give
a little blicky
a bit of brain surgery with a 1.57 rating and eliminating EG from major contention. It also feels pretty nice to be the winners of the Kasad Grand Slam. But unfortunately for the haters around the globe,
yeah, no, that's wild.
A lifeline.
They're getting
NA
fried.
Detonate have a player who is undergoing a medical emergency and have to withdraw from the tournament. So, following tournament guidelines, evil geniuses get called up for the RMR. So, in Mexico, they score an opening win versus Imperial. Then, in a best of 1, falter to Furia, a far better team than evil geniuses. And in an elimination best of 3 versus Paqueta, a team that is filled with aging leaders and far inexperienced young guns.
Confident in it, Yell with the next. Now it's all onto Wiz, and Wiz overwhelmed, down to 2 HP, out of there. Paqueta have done it again, battling back from a map deficit the whole series.
They lose 2-1. They got resurrected, only to blow it again. Anyways, I suppose EG would do it okay in other esports. By the way, they recreated the Blueprint project in Valorant by having a practice squad for themselves. It turned out to accidentally work as they win Valorant champions in 2023. And then proceed to release the worst winning merchandise you've ever seen. Like, bro, they just reposted their Twitter graphic and put it on a t-shirt, man. The running joke even in the Valorant community is how little fans they have. People were only a fan of the players and definitely not a fan of evil geniuses. Wow, if you kept your legendary branding that has so much ethos in the early eras of your esports journey and really championed excellence like you did in the past, maybe you would actually retain a little bit of your fan base, huh? I mean, name any business takeover of your favorite intellectual property and see how it's actually been good to its current fan base. Well, folks, thank God it's all over. Evil Geniuses in 2023 put their Counter-Strike operations on hold. Nicole LaPointe Jameson resigned. She brought Evil Geniuses so many steps forward, but like a meteor in the atmosphere, burned down into nothing. EG were downsizing. They removed their Counter-Strike roster, sold their League of Legends franchise slot, and basically ran a skeleton crew to keep their Valorant team alive. Yes, they won Valorant's biggest tournament and were failing to stay afloat. And so, esports' ridiculous experiment ended. Chris de Apollonia would step in as interim CEO and then official CEO, and has been running a skeleton crew at the organization while still trying to complete their deliverables. Quickly, after taking the wheel back, Evil Geniuses made one redeeming decision. They brought back the old logo. They have a shred of decent branding in Valorant, where the most successful female competitor in esports ever, Valorant coach Potter, holds the torch high for the organization. Everything has kind of gone full circle. While Evil Geniuses is once again back to just floating along the esports river while operating a skeleton crew, trying to keep the lights on. The more things change, the more they stay the same. The moral of the story? I have no idea. Thanks
and
for
get
watching.
that bomb planted in 10 seconds. Out in the open. Who else but Hex to do it? It's EG. They're off to Rio.
Yeah, I don't even have anything to say after that. It just goes to show, like, people who have, like, think they know what they're doing that get a hold of shit like that. Sell your soul for money? Jesus, man. It's just management, bro. Like, some people in management can chalk a team so quick if they got no idea what's going on. Like, cooked, bro. If someone up top can't figure it out, man, well, how do you think the guys at the bottom are gonna do? Torched. Exactly.